Okay, welcome everybody. I'm happy to see you all here. I'm Shlomo, I'm the CEO of China Business Webinars and eBusiness Chinese, and I'm happy to open our third webinar. And this is already our second webinar with Andrew, which I'm really happy to host again, as the last webinar was a very successful one, as we decided to have an additional one. I'm also happy to see many people here that already were here before, some people I know, and new people. So welcome all. Okay, now I'm going to give the stage to Andrew. I really encourage you to disturb Andrew with questions. I see them on my screen, and I'm gonna read them out loud for Andrew and answer whatever he can. Yeah. So I'll just introduce him. Andrew Huppert is the founder and CEO of Best Practices China, and he's based in Shanghai. Since 2003, he has been advising and coaching executives and managers in multinationals to improve their deal-making and negotiation skills with Chinese counterparties. His corporate clients include Philips, Schindler, Clipsal, and others. He is an adjunct professor at the New York University at the Shanghai campus and has also lectured at Strathclyde University EMBA program. Andrew first came to Asia at 1990 after receiving his MBA in International Finance from the New York University Stern School of Management. Extensive senior sales and management experience with leading financial institutions in Taipei, Hong Kong, Kyoto, New York, before settling in Shanghai as a consultant and lecturer. He has also published articles in business journals such as Shanghai Business Review and the China Economic Review, for which he writes a column on China business strategy and negotiation. Companies around the world follow his discussions about negotiation tactics in China at ChineseNegotiation.com. Andrew, I give the stage now to you, please.
Listen to me. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrew Huppert, and what I'd like to talk to you today about is dealing with conflict, handling conflict, business conflict in China. So you've already heard about me. I've just been spending the last 9 years or so studying negotiation, talking to Americans and Europeans involved with negotiating in China, and consulting, teaching, writing, and generally concerning myself with how deals get done between Westerners and Chinese. And today I'm going to talk to you about one aspect of that. And the aspect of that is that we're going to talk about today is conflict. We're going to talk about business conflict, and I'm going to break this down to 5 easy sections. First is good conflict versus bad conflict, because there is a difference. Then we'll talk about how reconciliation takes place, how how Western and Chinese counterparties settle their differences. Then we'll look at the 3 big approaches to dealing with conflict in China. One is conflict avoidance, and we'll talk about conflict mitigation, and finally conflict management. I begin by putting it to you something that is counterintuitive when you're talking about conflict in China. Westerners are terrified of conflict, any kind of conflict in China. And we do everything we can to avoid it. I'm going to put it to you that conflict itself can be good. Conflict can be very constructive. What's bad is confrontation. Violent, bitter, destructive confrontation is bad. But conflict itself, just a difference of opinion that gets aired, has a lot of very positive aspects. It's very good for aligning goals, making sure you're all on the same page. It's good for practicing those communication skills when you're crossing cultural barriers. It's good to do a skills check, and there's nothing like a little bit of conflict to make sure that the lines of communication are open. It's very good for problem solving. It's very good for problem solving in that if you have conflict, then you know what your short-term goal is to solve that problem. You can learn more about one another, and more importantly, as we'll talk about later, you can vet your counterparties, because that is going to be one of the most constructive aspects of minor conflict in China, that you need to find out who you're dealing with. All right, One of the paradoxes of dealing with conflict in China is that we tend to have fewer conflicts here than we would in other business settings. If we're just dealing with other Americans, or we're just dealing with people from other European countries, we would tend to have more differences of opinion, more conflict, more arguments and disputes. The paradox, though, is that even though we have fewer conflicts in China, they tend to end deals more often. There is a higher percentage of deals end in dispute here than they tend to in other places. And one of the reasons is it's so easy to have, it's very fertile ground for problems, for blunders, faux pas, for accidental insensitivity. It's very easy to say the wrong thing and do the wrong thing. And that makes it very possible to have more conflict, or to have the ingredients for conflict. Now, one thing I have to stop and say at this point is that when the Chinese negotiators are very savvy about this, and they know how Westerners feel about the hot-button issues in U.S.-Chinese relationships, things like phase, guanxi, harmony. So Chinese negotiators tend to be a bit opportunistic about about where they have conflict. If things are going well, and the Chinese side feels that it is getting resources, it's getting assets, it's getting technology, they're going to be incredibly forgiving, and they're going to overlook any potential difficulty. But if they feel you have outlived your usefulness, if the technology has been transferred, the assets are transferred, and now you are not really contributing that much, you're going to find it's more likely you will have conflict, and that there will be bigger conflict and more deal-threatening conflict. And this brings up one strategy point that I want everyone to be aware of. Historically, a very successful Chinese technique has been, for dealing with outsiders, has been to simply wait for them to go home, to make things difficult, and wait for the outsiders to eventually leave. And this tells us that the takeaway here is that conflict in China tends to favor the Chinese side, who have lower costs and better command of local laws and customs. So when I speak today about how to manage conflict, about how to mitigate it, and how to make sure that you are you're not destroying the trust that is vital to doing business in China, just bear in mind that the Chinese side may you may have to work harder. The Chinese side may have some very good business reasons for letting this conflict develop and get out of control. So the onus is on the Western side to protect your investment and make sure that you manage conflict correctly. Okay, so all right. So do you have the first poll question?
Yeah, sure.
During the course of this conversation, I'm going to put up a couple of questions from time to time. I think there are a total of 5 questions. And this will just help us take a temperature for what this group has encountered as far as everyday conflict in China, business China.
Yeah, I'm putting the poll.
Okay.
There it is. How many negotiations with mainland Chinese counterparties have you had in the last year?
Okay, I don't see it, but
Please vote, people.
okay, while you're thinking about that, I want to talk to you briefly about. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how some differences between the way that Westerners resolve conflict and the way Chinese resolve conflict. Chinese negotiators tend to be very forward-looking. They prefer to resolve any unfair outcomes on the next deal. Westerners we tend to either be lawyers or are advised by lawyers or have a very lawyeristic way of looking at conflict, business conflict and business dispute. So we tend to take a more backwards-looking forensic approach. We want to know who is to blame, and we want a remedy on the spot. We want compensation for what has already happened in the past right now. So the situation that a lot of us, that we all face is if an honest, sincere, very upfront Chinese partner acknowledges that you did poorly on the last deal, if he acknowledges that there is that something didn't go well, and that you do have some basis for your complaint, he's going to try to make it up to you by giving you access to another deal or giving you better terms on the next transaction. He's going to be even if he acknowledges that something went wrong, he's going to be very hesitant, very reluctant to admit blame or go through any formal legal process or pay compensation. So if you want to resolve conflict with a Chinese counterparty, one of the key decisions you're going to have to make is this someone you want to do business with again? In spite of everything, in spite of the potential problems you've had and the conflict that has occurred, if you want to resolve this dispute, you're going to have to make a decision about whether or not you want to do business with this person again. Most of the time, this is pretty much the only way to really resolve a conflict.